We're live.
Yes.
Live recording.
Yep. We're streaming.
I've never understood the college rivalry thing. I think college sports is all marketing. All college sports is marketing.
And they don't even pay those guys.
It's a giant marketing campaign. Most college sport programs hemorrhage money.
Oh yeah.
Hemorrhage money. Like most of them don't make anything. If
Yeah.
not, most of them lose significant sums.
I wonder how much Vandy, like a D3 football team. We can't make that much money.
It's all marketing.
No
campaign.
way.
It's all marketing.
Ohio State does make money. Pretty sure.
Ohio State does make money. It is
People
crazy how many people go to those games.
They love it.
It's great. Them, like Michigan, Nebraska. I mean, just so many people.
Well, Nebraska doesn't even have like a legit like NFL.
There's no professional sports team in Nebraska.
Yeah, I don't think there's any.
They don't even have a professional sports team, whereas Ohio at least has two teams.
They have the Bengals and the Browns.
Browns, yeah. And then
Bengals are all right.
I feel like the Bengals have been actually pretty good for the past few years.
They made it to the playoffs like last year.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about football. That's for other people. We're here to talk about dirt. This is a Monday episode, and we're going to talk about, or at least I'm going to recount our recent visit to the Kinross Round Mountain Mine out in the middle of nowhere, Nevada. Nevada, there's not a lot going on in Nevada. I feel like most of the population is either in Reno or in Las Vegas, where I would bet, I haven't looked this up and verified this, but probably roughly half the state's population is in the Las Vegas area.
Yeah.
There's not a lot going on in Nevada. And so while most people are on the kind of the outskirts of the state, you have the whole interior of the state, which is what I now know is to be mostly military, almost all military. I was reading about the nuclear test site out there today. They had almost 900 nuclear tests on the Las Vegas test site. So most of it's military. It's where they keep the aliens, etc.
Yep.
You know, Area 51 and such.
Missile silos.
Missile silos. But most of the missile silos are actually in the Midwest. Go figure. In the middle of the country, ironically enough. Like Montana, Nebraska.
We were just saying, nothing. They don't have sports teams.
Yeah.
They got missiles.
They do have intercontinental ballistic missiles. But beyond stealth aircraft and aliens, the middle of Nevada has something, a very big industry, and that's mining. And I've always wanted to go see the gold mines of Nevada. They are world renowned. It is, I believe, if you look at Nevada, the top gold producing region in the world. And that could be completely off base. Everything I say in any podcast
maybe
is probably wrong, but I believe it's the largest gold producing region in the world. There is gold in them hills.
Gold.
And historically speaking, there's been gold mining there for well over a century.
Isn't there something in their like state motto?
Probably.
About gold. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
So back in the day, there were gold rushes. California is known for the gold rush, but there was tons of mining in Nevada and Colorado and Arizona, and most of it was underground mining. And there's still a lot of underground mining in Nevada, and I'll get to some of the underground mining we saw here in a moment. But most of it was underground, so they would dig shafts, and then they would chase the veins of gold wherever they went under the earth, and they would extract really rich stuff. But the world has modernized. We have better tools now. And so today, most of the gold mining is open pit. There's these big holes in the ground, and they extract the gold. Gold mining today, if you asked people what gold mining looks like, they would probably think somebody with a gold pan in a stream panning for gold, or somebody with a pickaxe. Like, hitting some rocks. And
with
then,
the gold tooth and the
with
big
the gold
beard.
tooth. Yeah, and then breaking the rocks open. There's like nuggets inside of the rocks.
Yeah.
Or gold rush,
Yeah.
thanks to the Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
Is how they see modern gold mining. But that's absolutely not modern gold mining. And so we finally, thanks to my friend Dino through Arnold Machinery, we're hooked up with Kinross, a large gold mining company headquartered out of Canada, with 2 major gold mining operations in the state of Nevada. We spoke with them. We decided to focus on their Round Mountain operation, which is south. I know most of the gold mines are further north of the state, near Elko in that region. Yep. But this one was further south, so it was about a 4.5-hour drive from the Vegas Strip into the interior of Nevada, around Area 51 is where this place is. And that is the gold mine we chose to focus on. So we get out there. The first night, we stay in the town of Round Mountain. The town of Round Mountain used to be where the mine is, but they relocated it a while back. And I think they might have said a few thousand people living there, I think is the population. So it's not a massive town by any means. There's not a single stoplight. There's not a whole lot going on. But most of the town is operated by the mining company, and most everybody there works at the mine or is a direct family member, like a child of somebody that works at the mine. So everybody in this town is involved in this mine in one capacity or another. And the mining company runs the grocery store, runs the daycare center, the community center, all of that jazz.
Wild. So it's like a real mining town of old.
Yeah, well, no, it's like it's just like a community.
Yeah, it's modern.
Yeah, it's completely modern.
But,
so we stay in one of the houses owned by the mining company. They put us up, and then the next morning, we get to the security gate at about 5 a.m. or so. Whenever I have the opportunity, I really stress and ask if we can get out to the operation we're visiting before sunrise. So we get there pretty early. We get checked in through security. We get into a van, like a Sprinter van with row seating. We drive into the mine, and we start at one of the areas they're expanding. And so with a pit, you're digging a big hole, and it's big at the top, and it gets narrower and narrower and narrower as you go to the bottom, essentially. It's in its simplest form, a giant cone. And if you want, typically the gold ore is deeper. And so if you want to uncover that gold ore, you have to start at the top of the cone and work your way down. And most of what's at the top of the cone is waste material. Yeah. And so we started where they're expanding the pit with a Cat 7495 rope shovel. It was the first 7495 yellow one I'd seen up close, which was very cool.
Sweet.
It's the Legacy Bucyrus 495. After Cat bought Bucyrus, they put a Cat badge on it. They painted it yellow. It's technically a 495. And we saw it loading into waste. So we got there. I think we got up to the shovel around 6. It was pretty cold because the elevation's about 6,000 feet and it snows. And so we had mountains in the background all around us, mountains covered with snow. And the shovel shift change was around 6:30, 6:40. So we watched the shovel load a little bit, and then the shovel goes down. The operator gets out. We get to go up into the shovel. I climbed up the boom for the first time and stood at the very top of the boom, which is, I think he said, more than 60 feet above the ground, which was a little scary.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that, but
no, it's not dangerous, but
yeah,
that was pretty cool. And then the shovel went, it's a hot change. So a bus pulls up, the operator, then the day shift operator gets out, the night shift operator gets in to the bus. Day shift operator does their walk around, does their pre-check, and then goes right to work.
They're working like damn near 20 hours.
Yeah, all mines run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They never stop.
So you said they're working at the top of the pit?
Yeah, so this is top of the pit.
Do they have to always expand the top so that they can expand the bottom?
Unless they're underground, which I'll get to.
Okay.
later. But yes, if you want to get to the ore down below, you have to first start at the top. And so this is like the next extension of the pit.
So they're like, hey, we're going another 100 feet over this way, but up top we're going another like 1,000 feet.
Well, sometimes, yeah, you don't have to lay it once it's already laid back.
Yeah.
You don't have to lay it back again. You just have to chase it all the way down.
Oh, that's wild.
And so we saw that loading 793 Caterpillar haul trucks. There was a D11 building a new ramp into the area. There was a Cat rubber tire dozer cleaning up the floor. It was awesome. And then from there, we got to see some of the drilling up top because you can't outdig the drills. It's hard rock mining.
Mm-hmm.
So they had some production drills up there drilling 6 3/4 inch holes about 40 feet deep. Their bench height was about 35 feet approximately. And then they also had a Cat 994K loader, which is Cat's biggest loader, loading some trucks. And the shovels are the production diggers.
Yeah.
But the loaders do some production work. The nice thing about the loaders is they're rubber tires, so they can move around the pit a lot easier and a lot faster. The shovels, you got to walk them. They're really slow. They're big. They're expensive to have down. Whereas the loaders, they can just move wherever they need to go because they can drive. And so the loaders are the ones that take care of the smaller shots, that do the cleanup work, that do everything that doesn't really make sense for the shovels to do. The shovels like to just sit in a face and dig. So anything beyond that, which is quite a bit, is handled by either 2 994K loaders that they have out there, and they also have 2 993K loaders, which look enormous when you're standing next to them, but look like little nuggets compared to the 994s.
Yeah, I've really started enjoying loader content. I don't know why. I
Big
think
loaders
they're just so sick.
They are so cool. So that was up top. And then we left the mine. We went to go record a podcast, Mining Minds podcast.
Cheating on this podcast.
No, it's a great podcast. It's based in Nevada. It's all about hard rock mining, promoting the mining industry. So that was really, really cool to be a part of. Check them out, Mining Minds. Once we did that, we then went back to the pit, and we went from there. We drove back in, and we went then down into the pit. So we go down into the pit, and this is where the second 7495 shovel is loading ore. So this is the good stuff that's going up to the processing, which I'll get to at the end of the podcast. So it's, another rope shovel. It's about midday. So the sun's right over the pit, the shovel loading out trucks. Up top, the shovel was loading off both sides. And so while the shovel's loading the truck on the right, for example, another truck can be backing in on the left, but the shovel below is in a tighter cut, so it was just loading off one side. Again, Cat 793s, so each one with about 220, 240 tons per truck. And then these trucks, we were towards the bottom of the pit, so they had to climb all the way out of the pit, which is quite a climb. It was pretty spectacular to see.
How long does that take?
Probably 15 minutes to get out of the pit, I would say.
Man, that's crazy.
What's crazy is they're hauling hundreds of tons of gold ore out of the pit.
Yeah.
So they had the shovel in there. We got to check that out. And then there were some other production drills down there. And then there was going to be a blast. The day we were there, they were blasting twice that day. One midday, one in the evening, later in the day. And so we asked if we could see the blast. And then they asked me if I wanted to actually press the buttons, which was very cool. So they loaded the shot. We go up to where they're going to set the shot off at. We watched them walk the shovel away from the shot because the shovel was right where the shot was. Oh. They clear everything. And then we get up. We're overlooking where they're going to be blasting, overlooking the whole pit. It's just spectacular. The scale and scope of this place is just incredible. And they essentially, it's an electronic blast. So they pull out this little yellow Pelican case with a few buttons on it, a little
Sweet.
LCD screen. And he gives me the rundown. He's like, yeah, right now it's checking every one of the detonators to make sure all of the detonators in every hole is where it needs to be. And then it goes down to a receiver that's a little ways down there. And then from the receiver, it goes up here. And when we're ready, I'll let you know when we're ready. And when we're clear, you just hold these two buttons and you'll set it all off. And when you see it go, take your fingers off the buttons. So I see the number, it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going really fast up to like, however many holes they had, 200. And then he says, okay, cool. We're good. It says it's good to go. Press the buttons. You press the buttons, hold it down, and then, and you see it right in front of you. You take your fingers off. You're like, that's yeah.
Sweet.
So
networking is king.
Oh, that was cool.
If you think every shot has a different IP,
well,
there you just used once.
I have set off blasts before, but it's been more old school systems, whereas this is the nice modern electronic system. So that was a cool experience.
Do they use like different like emulsion too?
Or? They were using Ampho typically.
Okay.
It's unless there's water in the holes, and then they use a different mix.
Because we were talking about different mixes previously on copper, right?
Yeah, they use emulsion there, but yeah, this is Ampho, ammonium nitrate fuel oil.
Nice.
Perel, or no, it's not Perel, it's Pearl. It sounds like Purell when they say
Purell.
Yeah, it's
hand sanitizer.
Pearl. So we saw the blast, and then the next thing we were gonna go see. So we saw the extension, the drilling, the ore loading, the blast, the hauling.
Yeah.
The next step was to go underground. And they asked us, hey, you want to go underground? I'm like, yeah, I want to go underground. So we go to the office and we get the PPE necessary. We get hard hats with lamps on them. We get boots. He's like, you don't need the boots, but I'd highly recommend you wear the boots because it's a little squishy down there. And then we got these rescuers that we would have on us with these mining belts. So we drive all the way down to the bottom of the pit, the very bottom. At the very bottom, there's a portal into the earth. Yeah. And this whole portion of the operation is purely exploratory. They're not mining there as of now. They're hoping to potentially in the future. But right now, they're just establishing some tunnels for the sake of exploration to see what's there. So we got to go walk around down in the tunnels. And it's just a different world. It's so wild to see underground mining get established. I've been in some other underground mines, but they've been a lot further along, and some of them decades old. This one they just started a few years ago, I feel like, or maybe even like a year ago. Was pretty recent. So we got to walk through the project manager who's done underground mining for decades, and he explained all the different terminology, and I don't know a lot about underground mining, and so we got to just learn about the different. You see the rock change as you start to get deeper, and it starts to get warmer, and there's water down there, and the water is between 120 to 140 degrees because you're starting to get into the heat from the earth. And at this point, we were 2,000 feet lower than where we checked in at, where we got our PPE and everything, 2,000 feet below that, which is pretty extraordinary.
Crazy.
So that was just a cool, unique, fun experience. I was not expecting to go underground. Kinross went way above and beyond to really take care of us and to give us a great experience. So I really, really enjoyed going down there. After that, where did we go? Then we started to go downstream. We created a video along with this whole experience, and the goal of the video, like this podcast, is to explain modern gold mining.
And this will probably come out before, I don't know.
It's for you guys to figure out. But
hopefully there's approval.
The goal of the video was to show modern gold mining. So again, we saw the drilling, we saw the blasting, we saw the loading, we saw the hauling. It all goes up to a crusher. If it's going to the mill, or there's another process called leaching, heap leaching. So there's two processes, and it depends on the grade of ore. And so every day, all day, they're testing the different grades of ore that they're getting from the pit. And depending on the grade of ore and the type of rock or earth it's within, depending on that, dictates where they send it. And so most of it, or a lot of it, goes to the mill. And so the trucks haul to a crusher. The crusher crushes it to like probably a 6-inch, 8-inch minus. So still pretty chunky rock, but in a manageable size now. It's all then fed into the plant at a consistent rate, and it goes into a sag mill. The sag mill is essentially this gigantic drum that's like a washing machine, huge drum filled with steel balls that are about the size of a softball each. Hundreds of these steel balls. And so inside of that, it's then combined with water, and those steel balls inside of that mill pound and crush the rock into a much, much, much finer consistency, like a sand. The material then spits out the other end of the mill. It goes onto a screen deck. Anything that's too big, which is anything bigger than sand, then is cycled back through and goes back into the mill again to get crushed further before it can advance onto the next stage. The next stage, then, it's this really fine material mixed with water. It goes into, I'm trying to really think about this. It goes into what looks like giant shock absorbers, huge shock absorbers. It's what it looks like first. And what they actually are, I don't know if people had like Hot Wheels, for example, but it's like a loop-de-loop slide all the way down.
Yeah.
And so they, at a very specific rate, feed the solution at the top of this. And with gravity, as it spins down this thing, the gold, which is heavier, goes to the inside of it, and the waste rock, which becomes the tailings, goes to the outside of it. And so they run this process a few times. So they extract the bulk of the waste rock and go discard that as tailings into a tailings pond, and then they recycle the water. And then they take whatever was in the middle of the column and go put it through the process again to then further separate it and refine it a few times over. And then whatever's left over, that higher concentrate stuff, then goes onto a shaker table. And the shaker table, with a very specific feed of this gold-rich material and water, it shakes it. And then as it shakes it, it settles into these little channels. And this was the only part that was similar to Gold Rush. Mm-hmm. Separates into these little channels. And then the gold collects in the channels and can be collected in these pans, essentially. And then from there, those pans, the coarse gold, this is the only coarse gold they get from the operation, then eventually goes to the smelter. But most of the gold is not coarse gold. Most of it is microscopic.
Which is a different process.
Which brings me to another process. So the what can't be separated out from the shaker tables because it's microscopic, it's small
so it's
gold.
Like it actually looks like flakes when it's on the shaker tables. Like
you can see it. Yeah,
you can
it's
see
visible
like
gold.
It's like shiny.
It's visible gold, yeah. And it collects in these, like they wouldn't let us get close to it because it's a high secure area. Yeah, because you could quickly nab a few pieces. But we could see it enough where it's like, yeah, that's a pan full of gold. So that area was high security. But then the mill still generates a significant amount of gold that's microscopic and still suspended within solution. So then that goes to what I believe they call the ADR plant. Before we get to the ADR plant, and I might be calling the ADR plant the wrong name. but I feel like DR is right. I'm not sure about the first letter.
We'll see.
I didn't do my research before this.
But I didn't even know this existed.
So that's the coarse gold. And now we have some pans full of coarse gold. Cool. But we still have a lot of gold left.
We'll set those aside.
And we'll set that aside in a secure location. That's when the microscopic gold recovery process comes into play. And before we can get to that process, we have to talk about heap leaching. And so a lot of the gold ore that is not suited for the mill ends up on these leach pads. To build a leach pad, they dig out. It's like a landfill cell. So they dig out kind of a hole. They line the hole with a very heavy plastic liner. And then they start to place the gold ore in layers on and build a pile. And then over this pile, they drape these little sprinkler lines all the way across it. And these sprinkler lines drip this very, very diluted cyanide solution onto the ore. And the cyanide solution percolates through the entire leach pad. And as it percolates through, the gold sees it go by and is like, ooh, oh, that looks cool. Let me go right along with that cyanide. And the gold attaches itself to the cyanide solution as it percolates through this material. And then it eventually hits the bottom, which is that liner, and is then all collected at a certain point. And that microscopically gold-rich solution then goes to the ADR plant alongside much of the other solution from the mill. So now we have this microscopic gold suspended within liquid that we have to extract out.
This is like an outside operation, or
It's a gigantic pile of earth. Like it just looks like a mountain.
Huh.
It's huge. And you can leach material for decades. It's a really, really diluted cyanide solution. So you can just keep running it through this leach pad and you can have material leaching for 30 plus years.
So this is like a long con. This is not,
yes.
This is not like their short term.
No, the short term quick recovery is the mill.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have another leach pad where they can leach a little faster and they can turn material over. But most of the leaching operation, it just sits there and will always be there.
It's just kind of insurance.
Well, it's like an annuity.
Yeah. And you're like, we have
like a
this
pension.
much on hand, but over there in those big ass hills we got.
Yeah, and you can do it for decades. So even, there's operations, they're not mining anymore. They're just leaching. And so you can have a mine generating gold or copper or other metals decades after the mine actually ceases to produce.
Wild.
So now we're in this ADR plant. Really need to think through this process. Give me a moment.
Yeah.
We got to get the microscopic gold out of the liquid.
From the leach fields.
And the mill. We run it through then a series of tanks that are filled with these coconut fibers.
Coconut?
Coconut fibers.
Like actual?
Yes.
Okay.
Coconut fibers. And these pieces of coconut, they're very, very, very porous. Tons of little nooks and crannies in every one little piece of this stuff. And so as the solution runs through these tanks with these coconut fibers, it is drawn into these pieces, these little pieces of coconut. It doesn't really look like coconut. It looks like
mash.
No, it almost looks like crumb rubber or like just like rubber chunks if you take it out and look at it. The gold ends up through some science inside of these pieces of coconut. And as it runs through each tank, it gets richer and richer and richer and richer. It takes a while. And then as the liquid then ends up without the gold at the end of the process, they recycle that through the leaching process. It's all about recycling through this whole process. Everything is recycled. We're not going to discard water. We're going to use that water repeatedly as much as we can because it's valuable stuff. And so all of that and the cyanide is then reused within the leaching process. So now we have these little bits of coconut with this microscopic gold in it. We feed that into this pressure cooker that is a few hundred degrees, but it can't boil because it's under pressure. And that releases the gold particles from the little pieces of coconut into this gold-rich solution. And when I say gold-rich, he poured me a little vial of it. And you can hold it up to the light, and it's yellow. But it's not like there's gold flakes swimming around in it. You know, like you go to the gift shop, and they have that nonsense. Yeah, I feel like that's how people would picture it. Like you shake it up, you can see the little gold flakes in it. That's not how it is at all. It almost looks like urine. Like it's just it's just yellow water, and it's not bright. It's like pale yellow water is all that it is. And he said in this vial
of piss. Great.
Well, yeah. It's like a very small, very, very small amount of gold in that liquid solution. And then the coconut fibers are then cooked, baked, and reused back through the process as well. So now we have this gold-rich liquid. Still microscopic. We still can't get the gold yet. So we have to then put it through the final process within the refinery. And that is basically using electricity. And so there's an anode and a cathode. We run electricity through the solution. It drops the gold out of that solution. The solution can then be reused again. And we end up with this really high dollar sludge. So we zap it a little bit, and I'm going to leave this liquid. I'm going to get together with all my little gold friends down here. And we have this really nice, almost final product, which is this very expensive sludge. And it's not just gold at this point. It's silver. It's some other metals all mixed in to this one solution. It's primarily gold, typically around 80% gold, but it's not just all gold.
Was this similar to copper, this process?
Kind of similar. Yeah, but it doesn't stick to anything like the copper sheets do. There's no stainless steel it sticks to. It just becomes that sludge. Like what happens with in the copper process.
Yeah.
The sludge at the bottom is essentially the main product at this operation.
I see.
So they end up with this really expensive sludge, and I'm calling it sludge. I don't know if that's a technical term for it. Everybody's always like, oh, no, that's not a term. It's like, yeah, I know. I don't use a technical term. Sue me. So it ends up with this sludge that they then have to dry, and then they can melt it down after they dry it. And all of this is taking place in the high security part of this operation. You have to badge in, you have to go through the turnstiles, and the doors are locked, and there's razor wire, and it's high security stuff. And so finally, we almost see the end product. And that is they feed this dried sludge that becomes kind of this powdery substance into the furnace. The furnace at high heat melts it all down into a liquid. Once it's all into a liquid, they have this rotating table in front of the furnace, and they put these forms on the table. However many bars they're going to pour for that day, they put out the little forms, steel forms, onto the table. And then there's a control room with like a window looking right out onto this process. You can't go into the building, into the area when it's happening without a respirator because there could be some gases coming off this. So we're at the window with the operator, and he tilts the furnace forward a little bit, and you start to see the liquid metal pour out into each one of these bars. And then he has to, once the bar is filled up, tip it back. Because if you overfill the bar, you get basically like a bunch of liquid gold all over the table.
Like, oh shit, I just spilled thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And so we watch this process. He pours 9 bars. Each one of them is about $1.5 million each. So it's like nearly $15 million of gold just sitting on the table, and of silver and all these metals just on the table in these little trays. So it's like that's a few days of gold mining, all reduced to this little steel table with this glowing liquid metal in each one of these molds. And so then over the course of a few hours and like a day, these cool. They're stored very briefly, and then they're transported offsite. They're transported offsite to what I believe to be Utah, where they're then refined into the pure gold, silver, and other metals. So the final product of this mine is these bars, these bricks. I mean, it's about the size of a brick that are mostly gold, some silver, and then other stuff attached to it. But it looks like gold, but it's not. It's not like a gold bar you would see in a movie.
It's not like a shiny.
It's not shiny and perfect. That happens.
Not the perfect yellow color either.
Yeah, not the perfect yellow. Exactly. Yeah, it happens later in the process. But the coolest part about this whole visit is they kept a gold bar for us from a previous pour. That was cool. So we walk in, and they have like one of those fake wooden tables. Yeah. You know, those fake wooden tables with 2 folding legs underneath it. from like a thrift store. You get
Dollar General or something.
And they have a printer on it. And then they have the gold bar sitting there.
1.5 million.
It's just the most casual thing in the world. Like I was expecting, and maybe they have a vault that we didn't see, but they'd have to like spin the giant vault like and then you hear the locks open, and then you pull it back, and then the gold is shining in the vault.
It's sitting in like perfect pyramid,
and there's a light right over it. But no, it's just like this brick sitting on this wood table, and they're like, "Yeah, that's." And I'm like, "Is that it?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's it."
There's like a crusty pot of coffee in the corner.
What? That's it? It's just so nonchalant because. To me, I've never seen a bar of gold, but to them, it's just a job. Like it's just what they do. And it's not just a job. I mean, it's an extremely important role they play. But it was casual is what I'm trying to explain. And so they were like, pick it up, and you pick up a brick, and you're like, it's gonna be a brick. Yeah, it's gonna be like 20 pounds. You know, you're expecting it to be kind of heavy, but not that heavy. No, it was 60 pounds. It was so heavy. Gold is heavier than lead.
Yeah.
So heavy. And so I could not pick it up with one hand. No way you were picking it up one. It had to be 2 hands to hold this thing.
Yeah, 60 pounds is crazy.
It was deceiving. It was really deceiving. So we pick up this gold brick, and of course we're posing for it. We need to get our Tinder profile photos with a piece of gold, etc. You need to do it for the gram, for the social media, for the clout. Because okay, cool. Yeah, you're posing next to this Huracan, but yeah, good for you. $300,000 car. $1.5 million gold brick, baby. Hey. Yeah. Hey. And so that it was just that capped off the whole visit. It couldn't have been cooler. It would have been really cool to just see the gold get poured, but to actually hold the finished product at the end of the day is like, this is it. This is it right here. This is so crazy. And they produce every year, like in Gold Rush, a big season for some of these guys is like, 500 ounces, 1,000 ounces, a few thousand ounces. Whereas they do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of ounces every year. And outside of the operation, they have these giant gold bars, 3 of these giant gold bars, which I think are each 5 million ounces. So, which is what's been pulled out of the mine since 1980. So they have what would be 15 million ounces of gold in these giant gold bars that have been pulled out of this one operation since just 1980. And they're going to be going for years to come.
So I'm assuming they use some of it for like semiconductor stuff.
Most of it goes to jewelry. I saw.
Oh.
It's a vast majority of gold, which
Well.
if you would have asked me what a vast majority of gold goes to, I would have said
Electronics.
no, Federal Reserves.
Yeah, and the reserve. I was thinking like Fort Knox.
Oh yeah,
which is hilarious.
I would have said I think it's a Kinross mine. I think Kinross they have a gold mine in Alaska called Fort Knox. The perfect gold mine name. But
yeah.
And I'm sorry if it's not Kinross that owns it, but I'm pretty sure it's a Kinross mine. But most of it goes to jewelry. Like a vast majority of gold production goes to jewelry.
That's so strange to me.
It's so strange. And because a lot of it does go to semiconductor or like industrial use.
Yeah.
But gold, it's so fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can plate things with gold.
Like
with
super fine.
With a super it almost doesn't make sense.
Actually, you use it in microphones. So we're talking about like condenser microphones will have a gold capsule. I don't on this because I don't know the exact science, but they're like microns thick.
Yeah,
that's what the measurement they're using is like how many actual molecules thick.
Well, there's gold in this piece of you're like, we need to bust it open, get the gold.
No,
that's not how it works.
Yeah,
that's not how it works.
It's like a thin tinsel that's like coated on these two plates.
That like could look significant, but could be almost worthless.
Yeah, it pretty much is.
And one more interesting fact: every gold bar has a thumbprint. Essentially, every gold bar is a little different than the other because they're not producing pure gold. They're producing this mix, and every bar has a different mix from a molecular standpoint.
All chemically different.
But yeah, from a molecular standpoint, I guess. From a science standpoint, I don't know.
From science,
etc.
Yeah.
And so, if I were to try to take one of those gold bars and turn it into like a cash for gold place or like a pawn shop, you could track that bar to that mine anywhere in the world. It essentially the makeup of it is the barcode.
Whoa! Literal barcode.
Yeah. So they write on the bar with a Sharpie. Like they write a number on the bar with a Sharpie. I just think the whole thing's funny. It's like that's a gold.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous. But it's like, yeah, what else would you do with it? I guess. Like, it makes sense.
It's ridiculous because, like, you think about like our entire economy and people base it around this gold standard, right? And you're in the place
which doesn't exist.
Yeah. But you're in the place that is literally making this standard.
Yeah. That's making this. I mean, gold is the history of it's
really weird,
crazy. Because back when civilization was initially developing, they figured out, hey, we need something to denote value. We need to just portray value in some way. So we're like, well, why don't we just use gold? Because we can't find a whole lot of it. And then you had, back in the day, the Egyptians balling out with all their gold coins. And then the Spaniards and the Portuguese, and like how much of the world was shaped around gold.
People fought over it.
Cortez. I mean, whole continents were conquered
because of
gold. Yeah. Yeah. Like okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, World War II, wild. Like modern warfare, wild. But like this was, hey, we're just gonna like take over South America. Mm-hmm. We're gonna take a whole continent. It's just what, like, for the promise of riches. Mm-hmm. Like there's riches in those hills. There's gold in those hills. The lost city.
Which is funny that, I mean, it's really not. I mean, it's useful. Like, don't get me wrong, but like in our society, it's not really that useful.
Yeah, it's just hard to get rare. So I thought the whole, and I'm saying it's not useful. Obviously, it's useful.
It is.
It's widely consumed. Everybody has gold. Everybody's a user of gold in some capacity, whether they know it or not. And I am. I'm just very grateful that we had this opportunity with Kinross. They were so kind, so accommodating. They let us see the whole thing. I was not expecting to see the underground exploration, the gold pour, the gold bar. Like they went above, they put us up. It was so awesome. So if you're looking for a gig in Nevada, I would highly consider working on an operation like this, because it was a really well done operation. They had nice equipment, really nice people, and they also are looking to the future. I think they want to be part of where the industry goes, not just where the industry is. So I couldn't recommend them enough.
It's awesome. And so I didn't know anything about this process. Had you not had footage of this? Like, because I know that you have footage of this. I haven't personally seen it, so I'll believe it when I see it. I would think half the shit you were talking about is bullshit.
I didn't know either.
Coconuts.
I didn't know either. It's all science, and it's also simple, but so complex at the same time. And you pick up the gold ore, it's not like you're seeing chunks of gold. It just looks like a rock. But they say, and it takes a ton of it to make an ounce of gold, but the economics work because they can be efficient enough to extract it and crush it up and get it out of it. So that is Kinross Round Mountain trip report, how gold mining works. Thanks again for Kinross having us out. Thanks again to Dino for setting it up. And we'll see you on the next Monday episode, everybody. Stay dirty.